Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Trading Hour. The market's looking strong, 72 odd points on the Nifty, 270 points on the Sensex is what we have. I mean, it's essentially led by the big laggard, which is the public sector index. I mean, if you just identify pockets of strength and weakness, then we can look at a couple of stocks which are moving around. So Reliance, ICICI, State Bank, Axis, I mean, a lot of banking there, both public and private. And on the other side, you've got TCS, HDFC Bank and HCL Tech. This is basically what's adding up to that 70-odd point uptick that we are seeing at this point in time. I mean, advanced decline overall for the market is positive, so no problems there. There's a 22, 23-odd point premium, and it's just starting the new series, so that is not a big deal. But just if you can put these indices up, please. I mean, start with the Nifty PSU Bank index. Then let's look at the energy index. That's, of course, I mean, I think a big contributor is essentially what's happening with Reliance. The Nifty energy index will come up. And then you can look at, I mean, the Bank Nifty, the private bank index, ICICI Bank there, and the real estate index, which is up about 1.25%. So, I mean, a fair bit of activity going on. IT is weak. I mean, some profit booking is continuing. We've had a fair bit of run this year so far. But there's not another sector which is down, you know, in any meaningful fashion except the IT space, which is down a little bit. Remember, overnight Qs were positive, largely positive. Markets were up anything between 1 and 1.5%. I mean, the Nasdaq really was the big one, which moved up about 1.7% or so. Asia has been pretty okay. Sudarshan Sukhani is with us, festumanalytics.com. Sudarshan, good morning. Good to have you here. I mean, so it's moving up, and it's moving up 70 points today. Is there a trade now? I mean, if you're not already long or gotten early in the morning, what would you say?
Yeah, good morning again. Well, the trade still exists. For the Nifty, you can buy at current levels because we know what our exit is. Our exit is now 10,610. So with that stop, about a 70 or 80 point stop, you can buy anywhere you like. And I think you should. We must give this market the chance to say that it is willing to go up, and therefore we should be long with a stop under 10,610.
Sorry, for targets of, you said you'd want to get out where?
No, I didn't give a target. I said the stop is 610. We'll let the market tell us how long it goes.
Okay, fair enough. What about the Bank Nifty solution?
Oh, the same applies to the Bank Nifty. Place a stop under 24,800. And give it time to show us the momentum it wants to develop.
Okay, what about stocks?
Well, stocks, Prashant, this is a good day, isn't it? So we start looking at mid caps to buy. We have already taken care of the large caps with the indices. Britannia is a buying opportunity. Britannia keeps on coming in our list. It's an outperformer in the FMCG pack. I think that outperformance will continue. Havells is also a buy. Havells has, after a nice and decent correction, Havells has been going up. That strong momentum should continue for the day. And the third buy is PEL, that is Piramal Enterprises. This is a stock that went through a fairly long sideways range. That sideways range was a correction for the stock, and it's now coming out of that range. So I think there's a significant up move here imminent. PEL is also, the Piramal Enterprises, it's also a buy for a positional trader. So three buy ideas, stay on the long side of the market, and let the market go wherever it wants.
ICICI and Axis, Sudarshan, did you put on trades earlier today?
Well, yes, Axis was a trading idea in the morning. Even when it fell in the early morning, the idea was to buy it. But now, after the initial early morning rallies, there is no trade in these two stocks.
Okay, we've got questions now for you from viewers. So first one is from Bishal, who's got 1,000 shares of Bombay Dyeing. He's paid about 283 rupees each for them. He wants to know the short-term view. I mean, the price is around this 270, 280 levels even now. What would you tell him?
I think the short-term view is upbeat and bullish. The stock itself is suggesting that a long trading range is eventually, it's leading to a breakout above the range. So perhaps for the next couple of months or 1 month, there may be more gains here. So I would say hold on to it.
Okay, hold on. Dhruv is the other one who's writing in. He's got 387 shares of Eicher Motors, holding since the end of 2015. He wants your take on the stock. I mean, where was Eicher in 2015? I mean, so he's basically up 150% or more actually. Used to be around 12,000 or so, 32,000 now. What would you tell him?
Well, I think he's wiser than most of us are. So stay on with it. It's a blue chip stock. It's an outperformer. Don't think this is a short-term trade. Stay for the next 2 to 3 years. Even if you are if you're looking to exit in the short term, there's more up move here in iShares. So in any case, stay. Actually, I would say stay for three years now.
This move in IT, the lower that we are seeing, is it just a profit taking which will pass and they look good for more? What's your sense?
They look good for more, but the profit taking could continue for some time. Just as the Nifty went sideways for 8 days, I think IT is probably now going to go sideways. Everything here has been discounted. So there is no rush to buy IT.
Sudarshan, we speak again. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you joining in with those trades right now. Okay, let's get some F&O perspective as well and some trades really. Krish Subramaniam is co-head equity advisory at Altamont Capital. He's joining in. Krish, what's your sense on the Nifty? Good for more? Will we see this momentum develop further today, and what would you trade?
Well, I think we have definitely begun on a very good note and led by the laggards, in the sense the PSU banking pack. The banking pack overall is leading the charge. But I think closer to levels of 10,700, 750, we could enter into some sort of resistance. So we are in fact recommending some synthetic sell. Recommending selling of Nifty futures, but also hedge by selling a 10,500 strike put. So, I mean, since the premiums are quite rich, that's a pretty good hedge. And we feel that we could see some correction coming to closer to levels of 10,550. So that's the target. Recommending a stop loss of 10,775. And stock specific, going with the strength that we are seeing in the PSU banking pack, all of them are beaten, down and beaten. So I think one could take advantage of the rich premiums. Covered call on Canara Bank. I think one could buy Canara Bank futures, also sell a 260 strike call, that's fetching almost 15 to 16 rupees. Keeping a target of 285 and stop loss of 245. And I'm taking a contra bet on the metal pack. I think they have the potential to outperform in the May series, and keeping that in mind, closer to support levels of 71, 75, I think one could probably buy a 80 strike call of Steel Authority of India. That's quoting at around 2 rupees. Keeping a target of 4, and maybe one could keep a stop loss of 1.
Okay, Krish, thanks very much. Appreciate you joining in with those details. The numbers on GST collections are at the bottom of the screen. This is Finance Ministry tweeting. So they're giving August to March 2018 numbers, but we got the monthly numbers anyway. So I think this is an aggregate sort of summary of those numbers. 7.19 lakh crore is the collection that we've seen between August 2017 and March of 2018. March, remember, picked up, and I guess there's a fair bit of expectation that maybe things do get better on a more sustainable basis, and the performance that we saw in March gets better with the e-way bill now, of course, becoming a reality, the collections, etc. So that should give a boost. But nothing new in that sense in the information. As I said, this is just a summary because we already had the monthly numbers. Axis Bank is the other sort of stock which is doing very well. So the stock's at about, what, 517 or so. It's had a big move already today. I mean, if you take a look at the low on Axis, today it was, what, 481? And it went to about 620, sorry, I'm looking at, I think, the monthly chart. The low was 481 and the high today was about 523. It's at about 517. So it's a, what, 7.5% recovery from the day's low. The bank posted its first ever quarterly loss yesterday. Slippages rose about 4-fold, provisions rose 3-fold sequentially in Q4. We heard from the management, just playing out a couple of important sound bites to listen into. Listen in.
Bank significantly accelerated NPA recognition in this quarter. Slippages were at 16,500 crores, most of which, about 13,900 crores, came from corporate lending. This recognition was mostly from the BB and below book, and particularly from the power sector. Power was the dominant sector from where we saw slippages, and it contributed upwards of 40% of all the NPA formation in this quarter. The new guidelines from the regulator on resolution of stressed assets did drive some of the recognition, particularly in the restructured book. Our watch list is closed with this quarter. Watch list outstandings at the end of the quarter was 428 crores, and we have now merged it with the business as usual pool, and the watch list will no longer exist.
So things still going pretty strong. Actually, we're up a little bit more, 78 points on the Nifty. 10,694 is where we are at right now. As I said before we took that break, we'll come back and look at commodities and what's set up there, which are the commodities worth talking about. Manisha is here, as always, with that. Manisha, morning.
Prashant, thank you so much for that. We're talking about metals really, and all of that sector, while it's trading in the negative, aluminum is the one that stands tall. The whole global supply chain for aluminum has been shattered with what's happening around Rusal, and that clearly has been supportive. Even as we are trading in the positive right now, the aluminum prices are down 8% for this week at this point. The other major decline really has come in for the zinc prices, where we have seen the inventories gain up by 26% on the LME warehouses, and that clearly has led to some pressure on that. Zinc prices actually are down 4 to 5% in this week as well. But the important data really comes in from the International Lead and Zinc Study Group. They have come out with a global demand and supply outlook for 2018, and those numbers really tell you that we are looking at a deficit when it comes to both of these metals for the all of 2018. As far as the lead goes, the ILSG thinks that the demand is expected to rise by 2.7% to 11.9 million tons. In contrast to that, when you look at the supplies, while those are of course increasing by 3.8%, but the final number just about comes to 11.88 million tons. So clearly in a deficit when it comes to lead supplies for the whole of 2018 there. Zinc also faces a similar scenario, where the global demand for refined zinc forecast is expected to rise by 2% to 13.97 million tons. And while the refined output is expected to gain up by 3.6% to 13.71, that also shows you a deficit of around 2,63,000 tons for all of 2018. The markets, of course, have been anticipating that, and this is a third straight year that you will see a deficit in sense of zinc going forward for the refined zinc. And the demand, of course, is expected to be positive from all over, from China, Europe and US as well. So that is something that could actually be positive for those couple of metals going forward. Prathamesh Malia then joins us to talk more about that. Prathamesh, I am assuming you've read the study as well. What is your sense when we look at a deficit coming in for lead and zinc supplies for all of 2018? And is that an impetus now to go out and buy these metals perhaps?
Morning, Manisha. Yes, the whole set of numbers that you have spoken out really gives me a sense that lead and zinc can possibly even outperform in 2018. But the kind of volatility that's there in the metal counter, I mean, just as a trader, I think I would better be off the card when you want to trade. But aluminum is something which is really giving shaky things as far as Rusal goes. So I think I would stay away from all these metals for a while. Let just the dust settle down. But taking into consideration, I think I would pick copper as such, because the copper is being stable of the entire metals pack. I think there's some correction that's due on this particular counter. 440 is what we're looking at the cards as far as copper goes. Lead and zinc for the time being will stay away, take into consideration the volatility. And aluminium as such, the new spread is which is going to drive aluminium. So I think it was just copper and aluminium which would be the top pick in the entire metals pack.
Sure. But how are you looking at zinc? Because, you know, we've actually doubled in sense of prices in last couple of years. And with the very near term, with the kind of move that we have seen come in for inventories, up 26% in this week, how have you read those numbers?
Zinc inventory is up by 26%. You have already seen that being factored in the price. But taking into consideration the supply numbers, I think zinc in 2018 would again be seen in deficit. And this is something which will give a boost to zinc prices as well. I think 2018 would again be the year of zinc. And with taking into consideration the steel, the prices in steel volatility, I think zinc is there to be played. So I think zinc would be outperformed in 2018.
All right, so outperformance expected onto that metal as well. How are you looking at the crude oil prices then? Because we are up nearly 6% for this month. $75 seems to be like a resistance right now. We did see a spike up above that, but the closing, of course, has been below that.
Yes, Manisha, I think Brent on 75 is being capped and on the WTI $70. But I think it's too fast a rally for oil prices. I think inflation concern is something which really is spread out across the world. I think it's not justified out there. Right? Oil prices should be stable somewhere between 60 and 65. It's trading at 68 as far as WTI goes. I think we see some correction in this particular counter. Taking into consideration all the fundamental factors except the Iran sanctions accord, the outcome of which would be decided on May 12th by the US President, is something which would keep investors on toes for as far as crude oil goes. But I think a near-term correction seems to be there on the cards as far as oil is concerned.
All right, Prathamesh, thanks very much. Appreciate you joining in with that. Manisha, thank you very much for running us through what's happening in that space. Thank you, guys. Well, just back to stocks, and I just want to highlight a few names. I mean, the Nifty still got 70 plus points right now, so that's looking good. If you can put up Pioneer Distilleries, I mean, it's another day of big moves. I mean, I think it's about 17% higher, and it's got very large, I mean, decent volumes for itself. Compared to what it usually trades, it's got pretty decent volumes. HIL, I think Hyderabad Industries, it's a 2238 rupee stock, 7% again. It's up on strong volumes, and I think United Breweries is the other one, which is up 4%. I mean, it's not very large, but it's got decent sized volumes as well. You look at what's basically happening on the F&O single stock futures list. And I counted the top 10 gainers in the futures and options segment in terms of stocks, all banks and mostly PSU banks. So look at Union Bank. I'll begin with Union Bank actually, about 7% higher. Bank of India, 6%. You got Canara Bank, 5.5%. Bank of Baroda, 5.5%. State Bank of India is up about 5%. PNB is up 4%. Indian Bank, IDBI, and I'm not even counting the private sector names. I mean, the old private sector banks like Karnataka Bank are doing very well. Karnataka actually is up 6%. Then there's ICICI, RBL is making a decent move. And of course, ICICI and Axis we've been talking about for a while. So it's a big bank day, 5% on the PSU Bank index itself.